Mike, let's shift gears a little bit, man. So
Yeah.
just let the viewers, listeners know you got a couple different businesses going out there, kind of what those are and
Yeah.
places to reach and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So there's kind of a few different, I guess, avenues that I've gone down over the last few years. One of them is my online training, which is teamdog.pet. And that is kind of a video representation of my last dog book, the Team Dog book, that talks about training, and it shows different ways to accomplish the things that I talk about in the book, and frankly, what I get most requested to showcase, hey, my dog's doing this, how do I stop that, blah blah blah. And so it's just an online training subscription, either by the month or by the year. And then I get into there's message boards, forums, etc., that I go in and interact with members every Monday morning, and answer questions and things like that. I do add some videos occasionally. I haven't in a while, just because it's pretty all encompassing. There's already quite a few videos on there, and I don't want there to be a paradox of choice problem where there's too much content on there, and it's hard to sift through. But so that's the online training. Obviously, I have the Mic Drop podcast, which Rick, you came on.
Hmm.
That those episodes are they're real intermittent because I do them all in person, between my schedule and prospective guests' schedules. Sometimes I do one a month, sometimes I do 3 or 4 a month, and sometimes I may not do one for 6 weeks straight. Just it varies. I crank them out when I can, but again, there's a lot of moving parts to make those happen. So, but that's certainly a part of what I do. In the last earlier this year, about 6-7 months ago, I started a dog food and treat company under that same Team Dog brand. That's all available on my website as well. I got tired of finding a really good dog food brand, and then a year or two would go by, and then they'd get bought out by fucking Eukanuba or Purina or Diamond or whoever, and fuck the formula all up and change it, and then you have to find something else. And that, coupled with the fact that most dog foods are pretty low in fat, by comparison to, from my experience, what they should be, and I found always having to add and supplement either duck meal or some sort of salmon oil or fat, or to get the fat content up, to where it was enough for the dog to not have to give them a shitload of food and make them have loose stools or add things to firm up their stool or whatever, and when really they just need more fat. And dog food, unfortunately, just like most things product wise in our life, are mostly marketing, and appeal to people's visual eye, if this package looks nice, or this is a good commercial, or whatever bullshit mechanism that they try to employ to get you to buy their dog food when it's really not that great. So I just wanted a good, super nutrient dense food that that I could put my name on and be proud of. And so I spent a fair bit of time kind of tweaking the formula to make sure that it was, what I was happy with. And so, all of our dogs, all 32 of the Warrior dogs are on it, as well as, some of them get raw food as well if they need it. All of my personal dogs, personal protection dogs that I sell, police prospects, military prospects, whatever, they're all on that food, as well as the treats and stuff. I do have leashes, collars, a crate through Dakota 283 that I spent a couple years developing with them to try to be a real heavy duty, solid working dog crate. And then there's the regular merchandise stuff as well. Then the Warrior Dog Foundation, which we started back in August of 2010. We basically take in all different types of working dogs, whether it's Customs, Border Patrol, police, military, federal protection services, even State Department overseas dogs, etc. Really any dog that has served our country in whatever capacity, that is now at a point where that unit has deemed them too big of a liability, and they're going to euthanize them because they just have had too many problems with them. Those are the dogs that we take in. So, as you guys know, most dogs go to their handler, Duco, spending time with you, et cetera. Like that's usually how that goes. But most guys that have been parts of canine units have seen that, there's sometimes you get that dog that's just a total motherfucker, that's really hard to deal with, that for whatever reason the handler can't take him or won't, or nobody from the unit can, or he's just bit too many of the wrong people, and they said, hey, this dog's just too big of a liability for us, and they're going to put him down. That's when we step in and we take him to avoid them being euthanized. And so we've taken in a little over 225 dogs or so at this point in the last 10, 11 years.
Wow.
And it's been a really neat organization to be a part of throughout that entire span of its growth and what have you. But it is a labor of love for sure, and can be challenging because, as you know, all those dogs are not the easiest to deal with. So that's a big part of what's going on. And then last but certainly not least, obviously the books, which, the first 3 books I wrote, the last one I wrote in 2015, so it's been a while. And then now coming out with this more political book with the Unfuck America. I'll be promoting that here going into the holiday season and stuff. But again, it's not something that I'm going to blast out and try to push super hard. It's just I'll get it in front of a few of the right people. And to me, books are interesting that way. If they're good, legitimately good, you don't need to promote them. A handful of people read them, and if it's legitimately like a knock out of the park book, then people are gonna tell other people about it, and it gets in the hands of the Ben Shapiros and Tucker Carlsons, and I don't suspect Don Lemon or Rachel Maddow will probably be reading it.
No,
maybe I'll send them a copy.
Yeah,
might be surprised,
absolutely.
Yeah, you never know. But to me, it's people that are on TV every night with multi-million viewership numbers, nightly. You get if it's truly a good book, somebody in that category or even several of those people will get a hold of it and either want you on their show or we'll talk about it. So I'll promote it where it makes sense and whatever. But that's kind of the gist of it. So I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but fuck, I can't hardly keep track anymore. So
now, so Tricos, is that, what umbrella does that fall under? Or
so Tricos is really kind of the main umbrella. Tricos International is the if you want to call it the holdings company of everything else, basically, where Team Dog and Mic Drop, they're all, technically they're not subsidiaries of them, but they kind of are. They're all their own entities, LLC wise. But Tricos International is kind of the main thing that I started, and so everything is kind of come under that. But now that each revenue stream or avenue is kind of its own animal, they are kind of all standalones at this point. But when I first started it, or even now, like the personal protection dogs and the real dogs all fall under that category. If I'm selling a personal protection dog, a police dog, a military dog, whatever, that will fall under the Tricos International umbrella. If it's anything pet dog related, the food, the treats, whatever, that's on the Team Dog brand. If it's anything media related, that's on the Mic Drop side. Like my book is being published under Mic Drop Media. And then anything nonprofit wise falls under the Warrior Dog Foundation. So, yeah.
So a bunch of different websites out there's like, hey, which one
Big
to go
time,
to?
man.
Well, yeah. So it used to be everything was kind of under Tricos. Now everything is just under MikeRitlandCo.com. So the Mike Ritland Company technically now is kind of the main thing, but Tricos is still a big player in that. So I think over the next probably year to 18 months, you'll see probably everything migrate over under just the Mike Ritland Company, but just try to streamline it so people can just Google my name or whatever, and then everything falls under that. But
that's the easiest thing, is just one thing, and that one-stop shop. Then just have your little drop downs, and people go, hey, hey, here's a question for you, Mike. So the picture you sent over for the clip art, that dog that's in that picture, who's that?
So his name is Nero, and he's a dog that was a personal protection dog. He's out in California, in Los Angeles area with a client, and he was one of my favorite dogs that I've trained for personal protection. The neat thing about all of those dogs, they're really all dogs that I would keep. It takes such a special dog to be enough dog to do the work, but not so much to be a total nightmare in a household environment. So you have to be so selective and so picky to find just the right balance of all those things in a dog for that. The really neat part about that is that every one of these dogs that I sell for that environment are dogs that I just fucking love working with, because they're just awesome, kind of once in a lifetime dogs, that you just get to work with and deliver over and over. So
Mhm.
that's still a pretty big part of what I do. That's on the working dog side, or hands-on actual dog training side. At this point, that's actually by far the biggest thing that I still do dog related wise. My kennel facility has my kennel master out there, Neil, is just a godsend, and he's kind of developed a crew of staff out there, and so they live out there, they maintain and run all of it, and just make it a lot easier for me to be able to kind of focus on the big picture and the 30,000 foot view of all the different things that are going on. But so I'll still go out there, and if I need to go out there, or just to go out and check on things, I still absolutely do, and keep my finger on the pulse of the kennel roster, and maintain quality control. But the nice thing about having such good staff out there is I don't need to. I do to at least show my face and make sure that they know that I'm still alive. But they do
Yeah.
such a good job of running just things tip top out there that man, it takes such a huge load off my plate, because from August of 2010 to really up until just a couple of years ago, I had to have a lot heavier involvement, and year after year after year, as I get older, like, that shit just takes its toll, because it makes it really hard to do much of anything else, because you're kind of chained to the kennel facility that way. But yeah, so.
Now, how long have you been doing the podcast? And was that something that was just a natural progression because of just getting the word out there, or was it something that you wanted to do because a lot of other guys were doing it?
Yeah, so it was definitely not something that I set out to do or had this kind of grand plan to start. With being on a lot of podcasts and interviews from the books, coming out, and just, the episodes were relatively well received. I just got a lot of requests from, folks that just say, hey, have you ever thought about, I saw you on so and so's podcast. That's my favorite episode. I think you should have one, or you should try one. Have you thought about it? Blah blah blah. And at first, I was just like, that's the last fucking thing I need is one more thing to deal with.
Right.
But enough people asked for a long enough time to where I was like, I mean, if that many people are asking, maybe it makes sense to give this a shot and see how it goes. And the one thing that I've always tried to maintain is not trying to get, well, I need, one episode a week, or I need X number of minutes a month, or whatever. I don't abide by that at all. It's, as you can tell by, the number of episodes that I have versus how long I've been doing it, to answer your question, about 3 years.
Okay.
A little over 3 years now. It is that, it's when it makes sense. It's when our schedules work. Like, I'm not going to have people on just for the sake of cranking out an episode. I've certainly tried certain avenues that didn't do as well as kind of the core group, which is usually former law enforcement, former military, former government employee of some sort, or just somebody that's tied into that one of those communities fairly well with an amazing story to tell. And that unquestionably is kind of the meat and potatoes of what most of the listeners pay attention to, and frankly want to watch and listen to. So I just started doing it, and it did well, and I just kind of rolled with it, and here we are 3.5 years later with a fully dedicated studio and a producer, and kind of the whole ball of wax. So where it goes, I have no idea. And again, it's one of those things where it's never been, just like with the books, it's been something that I enjoy doing, I'm passionate about, but it's really more of a hobby than it is like part of what I do for a living. Yes, there's money involved, and I have to be mindful of the fact that it does, cost money between the equipment in the studio and utilities and hiring a producer and all that shit. But my goal with it is not to get it to X level and jump on Spotify or fucking whatever. Like, it's just, it's a project, a side project really, that I just enjoy doing. And I'll do it as long as it makes sense to, if there comes a day where it makes sense to go bigger with it, in joining forces with a big media company or something, if it makes sense to, I'll do that. If it gets to the point where it just doesn't make sense to do it anymore, then I'll stop doing it. But for right now, I do really enjoy it, mostly just because, guys like Rick as a prime example, the platform has grown into a big enough audience to where I love to see the impact that having guys like Rick and other dudes with just crazy fucking military careers and countless deployments and tons of really good stories that I really do believe that, just like our generation of reading a lot of the Vietnam books, this is kind of like the 21st century of, military and combat style story podcasts are the 21st century version of that. Is that, to me, if those stories aren't told, they're not as likely to be remembered and have a higher probability of being forgotten about. And I think, especially right now with the dilemma and troubles that our country faces, like, there needs to be swaths of podcasts out there of getting these guys' stories out, so that, kids in high school can hear guys like Rick talk about being a dog handler in Afghanistan and what that's like from a first person point of view, not because they played a fucking video game and not all the other bullshit that you see on TV that they're just inundated with, that I think are emasculating our society on a grand scheme. And 20 years from now, we're just going to be surrounded by a bunch of soy boy beta cuck motherfuckers that aren't willing to stand up and fight for their own country. And so I do feel a certain sense of responsibility that way, to be able to bring these stories, not just from the guys that have lived it, but also the guys that didn't come home, and sharing their stories, so that people will honor, remember, and respect those guys, because goddamn, they deserve it.
Yeah. And that's, one thing I was going to hit, Mike, because, I know you were pulling, you want the stories, right? And I get it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not about Rick stories, right? You hit the nail on the head about the guys that didn't come home, and I got it. You're trying to pull, hey, what happened with Joe? You know what? People aren't going to remember how Joe got killed. It's like the Christmas cake. I'm telling you, people, that resonates with people, and they go, yep, cool. Am I about telling, excuse me, about telling Duco stories? 100%, because he can't tell a story, but there's so many other dogs that, their stories need to get told as well, because people don't get it. They don't understand what these dogs do and how many guys are around because of it, so was I the best guess at giving you war stories? Nope, I wasn't. That's,
yeah, but go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's sharing those other stories of guys that aren't there, because when you say their names, people now, yeah, okay, Rick Hogg can talk about whether it's Joe Andres or, whoever else we want to talk about, that, that have lost their lives to keep their names going.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's a huge part of it as well. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think from my perspective, I think all of the stories are important to be told, because I think, obviously, yes, the dogs don't have a voice, and it's important for people to understand that. But it's also one of the things that I've learned in doing, the show for a few years now, is that, while the meat and potatoes of what people are primarily interested in are military and combat style scenarios and stories, there are a lot of people that don't have the intimate knowledge that you have in terms of what that's really like, and so again, this is just my perspective of getting feedback over the last three plus years of these, is that seems to resonate with people and in a way where it seems to be memorable, and they really get something out of it when, the guys that didn't come back, their stories told the guys that did come back to inspire a generation of guys to actually go and serve. Because if the only stories that are shared are not even how guys lost their lives, but just, talking about them and what they were like,
Sure.
That makes it difficult for people to, if that's all we're focusing on.
No, yeah, 100%.
But so, I guess my point is just, I think everybody's story should be told, and when
Sure.
it's when your audience, doesn't have that firsthand intimate knowledge, being able to paint that picture for them just goes a long way in really showing them how things are. But
yeah, because you got me thinking, if you opt to have me back, shape the show a little different, because
I definitely do that.
Yeah, because I tell stories, but they're loose stories in the fact of, especially when I'm on the range teaching.
Yeah.
And Mark's heard these things, right? Why do I teach you this? Because this has happened. Why do we do this? Because this has happened. And I think you kind of plug that in. So now you're getting kind of a twofold context. Yes, you're getting, stories of, hey, what things are like, but now here's the practical application rolling down the road when you're trying to teach somebody a skill set.
Yeah.
This is why Rick does this. So
Sure. Yeah,
buddy.
Amen.
Yep.
Well, we have to address the elephant in the room. We do with all of our Navy guys.
Yeah.
We have to apologize for the last 2 Army-Navy games. We got another one coming up, but I have a feeling that better chance of scoring some points this time.
Yeah.
So do you pay attention to the Army? Because here at On the Range Podcast, we love all things America, and the Army-Navy game happens to be a big one, along with the hot dog eating contest on the 4th of July.
Which is basically the same thing.
Which is basically the same thing. But yeah, we always like to have a little fun with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I pay attention to it. I sometimes I watch it, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
For me, it depends on what the University of Iowa is doing that weekend or not. Being from Iowa, that it's one of the few states in the entire country, not the only one, but one of few, that has absolutely no professional sports team of any kind. And so college football, specifically the University of Iowa, is like, the varsity fucking team statewide. Their football team and the Iowa wrestling team. Iowa State, a big role too, but they're historically just not usually as good. And so, the Iowa Hawkeyes are a pretty big deal, which, I mean, they're ranked 3rd in the country right now.
Yeah.
So that's usually, if I'm paying attention to college football games, it's usually Iowa or Iowa State. But I do pay attention to Navy, and if one of their games is on and it's televised, I'll typically watch it. Yeah,
I always try to watch the academies play, man. It's a lot of fun.
But the Army Navy game for sure is a fun is always a fun event, and it's neat to keep track of for sure. But
yeah, Rick and I like to do on location shoots, and we would love to do one from the Army Navy game.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
If that happens, we're gonna shoot you a note and see if you can make it out there. That'd be a blast.
Count on it, man.
Yeah.
When is it this year? Do you guys know the date?
I don't know where it's at, and I don't even know if it's going to be. It wasn't at Philadelphia last year because of the issues. They had it at the
at West Point.
At West Point.
Oh,
so
okay.
hopefully they'll have it back at Liberty. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I'm just saying they were like, screw your state laws. We'll take it to a federal and
Roger that.
Tell us
we're
nothing.
not. Yeah. Thank God too.
It's like,
God, that would have been devastating for this household.
Yeah. No, that'd be awesome. I'd love to go to that. I've not ever been to one, so to me it'd be neat to go.
I think you have to make a contribution to West Point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that might be a little hard for you to do, but
I mean, to me, it's the rivalry on a football game is all in good fun, but I mean, when as you guys all know, I mean, when the shit hits the fan, and we're all on the same fucking team, and
it's the only day we say beat Navy in this podcast, but
I'd be honored to
but you got to look at, here's the beauty, man. Between the two academies, some of the crap they put on their signs is just will blow you away. Like,
so good.
Something like, what was it? I can't remember, man. Something
I'll throw some
Navy.
up on post-production. I'll fix it.
We'll have to find something. But I know.
I'll be fair. I'll do one for both.
Somebody had a sign reference Waffle House, and I think it was
Yeah.
in reference to the Naval Academy. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah,
said
I mean,
there's a,
like seeing all the just fucking craziness and tomfoolery that goes on between those two. It kind of makes me wish I had gone to the academy, kind of, you know. I mean, just
Yeah.
a little bit. I mean, ultimately, I'm glad I didn't. But there's a
yeah,
part of me that thinks like that experience of going through, you know, a 4-year university in that environment, that like that has to be pretty fucking cool, especially to look
Yeah.
back on. I'm sure it sucks
mhm,
being there,
yeah.
Yeah.
that, and it's just, I mean, how many academy guys have you met that you didn't want to slap the shit out of, right? So
All of them.
Eh, I've
Yeah.
known a couple. I've known a couple. You know, they're not
yeah,
going kiss the ring, kiss the ring. It's like, come on, man, really?
I've met a few that didn't deserve to be taped up, but not very fucking.
Oh man. Well, Mike,
So,
we appreciate
eh,
your go ahead, Rick. Go ahead,
well,
buddy.
I got one last
Yeah,
departing
man.
question for you, Mike.
Yeah.
If you were to give,
Mm,
I don't care, first responder, veteran, entrepreneur, one piece of advice from
great
kind of your
question, buddy.
experience
Yeah.
or whatever, what would be that piece of advice?
So it's kind of a progression. So bear with me, but you know, to me, it's do what you need to do right now. What, you know, with whatever job you have, with whatever line of work, career, et cetera, that is allowing you to pay your bills, to live, to, you know, support your family, et cetera, and then have something that you're passionate about that is considered, you know, your quote unquote side hustle, and that's where your free time goes into. But the key, I think, is the passionate part, is that there's got to be a sense of purpose behind it. If the goal is, well, I want to make a fuck ton of money, that's not going to pan out. It's going to have a shelf life, and you're going to run out of steam and stop fucking with it. You know, like that will come, but it has to be something that makes you feel legitimately fulfilled in that extra time, because, you know, you're not fucking bowling, you're not doing, you know, whatever weekend or night bullshit. Like, you're sacrificing that time to put it into something else, and you grow that to a point with which now it's become successful enough to where you can quit your normal job and put every egg in that basket, and now do that as your gig, if that's what your drive is for. I mean, there's plenty of people that don't want to be an entrepreneur, and frankly, it's not for a lot of people, or even most people. It does take kind of a special breed or even nutcase to really be able to thrive and succeed in that environment, because it's very different than, you know, punching the clock at 5 and leaving work at work and doing your thing on the weekends or whatever. It doesn't really ever stop, so you have to keep that in mind and realize that that's part of the gig. um, Once you get to that point, then, you know, surround yourself with as many people who have walked the walk and are at where you want to be. Don't take advice from people who've never built a business. Don't read a book by somebody who's never fucking struggled or done what you're trying to do. Surround yourself with those people that can actually teach you something about the journey that you're trying to take, and fucking listen to them. Realize it's not going to happen overnight, or probably not going to happen overnight. It's probably going to take several years, up to a decade, or even more, and you've got to have that staying power. And then last but certainly not least is that realize that there is a happy medium of both how many revenue streams you have. You can have too many, you can have too few. Don't have all your eggs in one single revenue stream basket, or if that goes away, now you're fucked. On the transverse, don't have so many to where you start half-assing them, you know, and now have no quality control over your product or service or whatever it is that you're providing. Um, and realize that with that, you know, there are going to be times where you know, you have to kind of pivot and decide which ones make sense to keep doing, or to change, or to throttle back on, or to go full speed in, and ultimately reward yourself when it makes sense. One of my favorite adages is there's a difference between being able to buy something and being able to afford something. And while it's important to reward yourself along the path, or what's the fucking point of doing all of it? You know, if you put every single dime back into your own business, that tends to suck the life out of you, and can get boring, and make it hard to keep doing it year after year if you're never doing anything fun for yourself. On the same token, like, don't have I just won the fucking lottery because I got a few extra bucks. Let me go blow it all, and take that $40,000 vacation to Europe for a month that I always wanted to take. Like be smart about it, and just like with most things in life, balance is key, and try to keep your wits about you that way. But so it's not really one single thing. It's kind of all of those things, because I think if I had to tell myself something at the beginning of the start of my entrepreneur career 12 years ago now, that's what I would have told myself, and that's kind of what I've learned along the way, and in some ways the hard way, in every regard.
Yeah.
And get yourself an AMG, right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mark, I stepped all over you.
No, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I
I used to be a bigger AMG fan, but there's still good cars. But I tend to like the Italian flair a little better, both motorcycle and car wise. But the Germans, especially on the Porsche side, I mean, Mercedes and BMW are kind of they're just not my cup of tea anymore, I guess. But Porsche, I love the engineering, and then to me, Ferrari is kind of the varsity squad of the fun cars. But that's a whole nother show, I think.
Oh, 100%. But you know what? Here's the deal. You got to bring it up, right? Because think about it. Would you have looked back 12 years ago and said, "Hey, man, there's going to be a Ferrari sitting in the driveway"?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I walk into my garage now and slap the shit out of myself to make sure that I'm not balls deep in a dream right now.
Oh man.
So if you want to disclose, totally up to you. What have you gotten it up to? Well, maybe you can probably disclose because you were on a closed track, let's just say.
Yeah. I mean, I've had it up in the neighborhood of 200.
Holy
Nice.
Christ.
So it's and it'll do, depending on the conditions, 212 to 218.
Wow.
Top speed.
That's amazing.
Pretty remarkable machine. But
yeah,
that's awesome.
Very cool.
And the cup and the change cup didn't even rattle.
Yeah, there is no.
There's nothing practical about that car, right?
Not a whole lot. There's a cup holder.
Okay, that's something.
There is Bluetooth. You can listen to radio, but I mean, it's for sure a track focused car. I mean, it's really stripped down on the inside, where there are floor mats, but there's nothing under them. It's just thin skin metal. It's actually the exterior of the vehicle, basically. So it's pretty loud, a lot of road noise. I mean, you run over even a little bit of sand and you can hear it. It's made to be pushed hard and driven like you just robbed a fucking bank. And so that's what I do.
Have you ever played the theme song to Magnum PI while you're driving your Ferrari?
I haven't, but now that you mention it, I'm probably going to lose up.
Yeah, you gotta check that box.
Yeah, I'll probably lose up and make it go drive and blast that.
Yes.
Shit. That sounds
yeah.
Like
oh man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service, brother, and thank you for coming on. You're doing a lot of great things. Got a lot of irons in the fire, and doing a lot of great things with those canines. So, really appreciate your time today, pal.
Well, thank you guys for all the same, and I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, Mike. Appreciate it. Thanks for your service, brother.
Thanks, Mike. All right.